Greetings, everybody. I'm Larry Williams, the Director of CARMA, the Consortium for the Advancement of Research Methods and Analysis uh, in the Rawls College of Business at Texas Tech University. Today is September 19th, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to what's really a special edition of our CARMA Quick Chat. You may know that with our quick chats, we take the opportunity to have an informal, brief discussion with those who are going to be contributing to Karma. And it's my pleasure today to be chatting with Jessica Methot, and she will be doing a workshop for us in the very near future. That is Monday, September the 29th at 2 p.m. If you're not familiar with Karma, we are a research methods education center, and our focus is on providing resources for faculty and doctoral students in management and organization studies to help them do their scholarly research better. Our main type of event that you may be familiar with are our webcast lectures, and we do 12 of those a year. We've been doing them since the fall of 2004. We also do a lot of short courses. Last year we did, I think, 35 to 40 of them throughout the year. And we've got a new type of event this year, workshop. And that's what Jessica's going to be doing. So Jessica, welcome to Karma. And we appreciate you taking the time to fit the workshop into your schedule as well as to have this particular quick chat.
Of course. Thank you
So,
for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
yeah, so Jessica, we were chatting. You've been a faculty member at Rutgers for several years. What led you to become a professor?
You know, I was fortunate enough to be exposed to this career very early on in my life. My father was also an academic, different field. He was more clinical, but worked for universities. I got the experience as a young kid of moving around to different institutions in different states. So I was familiar with the job of a professor, the job of an academic. But what drew me specifically to this particular field in a roundabout way was that I grew up playing sports and I was especially drawn to sports psychology. So, as an undergraduate student at the University of Florida, really big into athletics, I started doing research with one of the faculty members in the sports psychology group there. I was majoring in psychology and stumbled upon a class in industrial and organizational psychology, which I think is how many of us learned about this particular discipline. And I realized that a lot of the motivational theories that I was learning about in sports psychology were also relevant to and informed the work that was being done on studying employee interactions. And so I really became passionate about understanding the world of work and how employees collaborated and the dynamics between them.
Yeah. Well, you've had a very successful career, and you've been able to achieve that success while also taking on a fair amount of what seem to be service responsibilities. And so I'm always interested in how people at your stage of your career balance all of those competing demands on your time.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's something that we'll all struggle with as we continue through this career. I think engaging in service activities was modeled to me as I was a PhD student by the faculty member in my department. But I do think the breadth of our responsibilities changes over time and over our careers. Currently, my major service roles are as an associate editor at the Academy of Management Review and as the director of our PhD program.
Mhm.
I have gotten better over time at managing these service roles. I think we all have different approaches. There's no one size fits all, but for me, I have found that time blocking works really well. So I start at the level of my week. Each week, I kind of plan out which day I'll be working on what general responsibilities. So I make sure to start by protecting at least one day that I'll exclusively be doing research. And then I'll bundle all of my teaching and my meetings and my office hours on 1 or 2 days, and then one day for service responsibilities, whether it means writing a decision letter or pushing forward on initiatives for our PhD program. And then I'll narrow each day and divide the available hours in that workday into fixed time blocks and assign specific tasks to those blocks. It allows me to create more structure to the day. It ensures I don't spend too long on any given task.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I'm going to watch this video Sunday as I plan my week next week because that sounds like a great strategy.
Hopefully it helps.
So, earlier you mentioned your editorial work, but before that, you were involved in some what seemed to be kind of special service role of the OB division. So, what was that like, and how did you react to that?
Yeah, had the great opportunity to be invited in an appointed role with the OB division by Sigal Barsaid back in 2017, 2018, to work with the organizational behavior division for the Academy of Management as a program developer director.
Mhm.
I was in that role or a similar role. It kind of evolved how we defined it over time for about 6 years. So a really big portion of the service that I gained experience with was in this role. And the team that I was responsible, that I was working with and that I was leading, we were responsible for coordinating all aspects of the program for the OB division for the Academy of Management. And this is work that we were doing year round. It included organizing and scheduling social events, processing the flood of Academy submissions that came in right before the deadline in January, assigning reviewers to those submissions, making acceptance decisions, assigning papers to sessions, ensuring that all the sessions ran smoothly during the conference. It was incredibly rewarding. I really valued having the opportunity to work with such a passionate group of people who care so much about the strategic vision and the success of the OB division, which is the largest division of the Academy of Management. So it was a really great experience.
Yeah. Well, as I look at it now, I think that they are reaping the benefits of that work because certainly from my vantage point, it's amongst the most successful in terms of creating a wide range of opportunities for their members and creating passion and engagement from their members. So that's great. So you mentioned being an editor, and what really struck me about that is that you were an associate editor at Psych,
Mm.
and then you've made the transition to being an associate editor at AMR, with the latter being very obviously theoretically oriented, the former being primarily, I think we would say, empirically oriented. So, how has that influenced you? I mean, I think it's tough sometimes to reflect on ourselves and understand the things that impact us at different times. But if you try to do that, do you see kind of some specific ways at which you approach your craft differently now as a result of that experience?
I do. And I really appreciate this question because it gives me the opportunity to reflect on and be really introspective about kind of how my views have changed about this process. But I was really grateful to have the opportunity to serve in the associate editor role at two journals that are pretty different,
Yeah.
both really high quality, really rigorous journals. But as you mentioned, personnel psychology being more empirically oriented and AMR being more theoretically oriented, both really challenged me in different ways. Personnel psychology in particular, because I handled a number of qualitative studies that I wasn't really familiar with, and I learned a lot through that process. But I think the biggest way that it made me kind of reorient my thinking around the process of publishing in our field, the most meaningful way is that it helped me kind of being on the side of the editors was that we really do want to champion and develop and help publish your work.
Mhm.
And on the author side, on the submitter side, it never feels that way. It feels like, we get more rejections than we get acceptances. And it feels like the default is to just go to rejection. And being on this side of it, having worked with such different teams at PSych and at AMR, but both teams being so dedicated to this process of developing and championing work and really wanting to publish this work, it really showed me how many of us in the field are there because we want to see advances to these perspectives. It's not about convincing us not to reject your paper. Rejection really isn't our default. It's about giving us as an associate editor and even as the reviewers, but really the AE, this kernel that we can see as something promising that we can work with to help get your paper published. And I think that's
Uh,
what's really exciting about this process.
yeah, yeah. So, well, you've been doing it for a while, two different journals. And of course, you've been doing this at the time when there's so many dramatic changes. We hear this word a lot, the ecosystem. I don't know whether it applies to this particular topic or not, but there's just a lot of concerns, and in some cases, some people saying that it's broke and it's not
Mhm.
sustainable. So, from your experiences, what are some of the things that you like the least about, or if you could easily change something about it, what would those things be?
Yeah, I think so much about the process is working well and is relatively reliable, but there's a lot about the process that I agree needs improvement or that has evolved over time to not necessarily achieve its original goals. And I'm going to evoke my inner Joe LaBianca here, if anyone knows Joe. He has been, you know, arguing that and wrestling with this idea that in an effort to ensure that our research is rigorous and replicable, that we're doing good science, the standards for publishing, particularly empirical work, has become a real barrier. So, in particular, journals are asking for more and more data, more and more studies. And while I agree that being able to demonstrate that any particularly field study is replicable in a more controlled environment or over different periods of time and different samples, I also believe it can be really exclusionary for scholars at institutions that have less funding. I think
Yeah.
it creates a barrier where we've got good ideas and well-designed studies, but without the resources to gather multiple rounds and different kinds of data, that it kind of takes the excitement out of the publishing process. And so I think we need to find a balance between rigor and practicality.
Yeah. Well, and it's those features particularly create an adverse impact for junior people where that
Hmm.
clock is ticking.
Exactly.
So, well, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be doing a workshop for us on social networks.
Hmm.
What got you interested in social networks?
Yeah, so this was really fun. When I was in college at the University of Florida, so I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Florida. Before I was admitted to my PhD program there, my partner owned restaurants in and around the Gainesville area. I worked at these restaurants really often with him, and I was really captivated by the dynamics between our employees. So watching the employees work together, how they interacted, how they communicated with each other, how they helped each other, when they fought with each other, when they gossiped. And so when I started the PhD program, I already knew that I wanted to study employee interactions. I just didn't know what that meant from a theoretical perspective, from a methodological perspective. And so I really dove in to try to figure out, well, what does it mean to study relationships at work in this field, in this discipline? I was so fortunate to be at the University of Florida at that time because we had some of the leading network scholars, not necessarily in the management department. We didn't have a lot of network scholars in our department, but in the anthropology department, in the sociology department, in the political science department. And so I started branching out, realized how multidisciplinary network analysis was. And the first class I took on network analysis with a professor, Michael Heaney, in our political science department. And I was so excited. I was immediately excited by the idea that we could measure these relationships in an observable way, in a quantifiable way, in a way that allowed us to use those kind of relationships and measures and metrics to predict outcomes. And so I started getting involved with the Link Center at Kentucky. And learning a lot more about how to use network analysis and gather network data. But at the same time, I was reading a lot of work by faculty at the University of Michigan who were doing research more theoretically and qualitatively on high quality relationships. And I truly believe that combining those two perspectives, this much more kind of structural, quantitative way of measuring relationships, with this really rich, kind of theoretical, qualitative way of thinking about relationships helped enrich the way I thought about the content and quality of employees' networks. And that really informed the type of research that I started doing in my career.
Yeah. Yeah, Guy, you mentioned links. It was certainly sad with Dan Brass's
I know.
passing, and but been very fortunate to have a good relationship with Steve Borgatti. He's taught short courses for us, and in fact, he's going to be a webcast lecturer for us in the spring. So, well,
They're an incredible group, and Dan Brass was a trailblazer and just an incredible mentor and human being.
yeah, yeah. All right. So, can you give us a preview of what you're going to be doing in your workshop? Again, that is Monday, September 29th at 2 p.m. It's Zoom, I should mention. It's not in person. And you can find information about more details on the content, as well as information about how to access on the Karma website, karmattu.com. So, give us a preview, Jessica.
Sure. I hope you all can join us if you're interested in this idea, kind of dabbling in this idea of network analysis. I'm going to start by covering kind of the principal aspects of network analysis, how it involves shifting our focus from the individual level to the level of analyzing the relationship between individuals. We'll discuss how to define the boundaries of a network, the approaches to collecting network data, different metrics that can be derived from this network data, how we can link network data to theory. This is one of the areas that I'm really passionate about now, having spent time being an associate editor at AMR, thinking very theoretically how we can branch out from, oh, there's no theory in networks, and really see how we can align method to theory. And various research questions that social network analysis can be applied to. So, a huge range of different types of questions that we can apply this method to. Any of the different topics that you're thinking about, we might be able to consider how we might be able to see that through a network lens.
Yeah. Well, we will very much look forward to that. Jessica, it's really one of the most fun part to my job, having these types of chats and getting to know people that I haven't connected with before and welcoming them to the Karma community. So we're very happy to have you involved.
Thank you.
Very much look forward to your workshop. Thanks for joining us today.